Hey there, interwebs. I know I said How Fascinating was going on hiatus, and that was the plan, but this month's video about fantasy weapons in real life and vice versa is taking longer than expected. I don't want to cut corners on quality just to rush it out, so in the meantime, here are some cursed facts about horses instead. Let's start with the fact that they run on their fingers. What you probably view as their front knees are actually anatomically analogous to wrists, say that 3 times fast, and the rest of the leg below that point is basically one gigantic middle finger. This means that whenever a horse rears up, it's basically giving us the old double deuce, but if I'd been purpose-bred to be a beast of burden with a fucked up back, I'd probably be salty about it too. Even creepier than normal horse fingies are extra horse fingies. Like plenty of other mammals, humans included, horses are sometimes born with polydactyly, which leads to extra hooves, or horses with what look like thumbs. This can be caused by either duplication of the medial digit or by atavism, when an ancestral genetic trait reappears after having been lost over time to evolution. In ancient times, horses endowed with supernumerary digits were considered to be magical or otherwise special, and according to Professor Bruce McFadden, curator of vertebrate paleontology at the Florida Museum of Natural History, Alexander the Great's horse Bucephalus was one such specimen, which may explain why Alex chose to ride a mount that was afraid of its own shadow. Another polydactyl horse was allegedly owned by Julius Caesar, seen here, depicted somewhat fancifully, on this lovely Maiolica plate. In more recent times, there was a 5-hoofed thoroughbred named Norman Pentaquad, and in 2010 his offspring made up 11% of all horses in that year's Gold Cup semi-finals. Sadly, I have no way to prove this theory, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that polydactyl horses with extra hooves may have also influenced Norse mythology, specifically Sleipnir, the 8-legged steed of Odin, god of magic. And while we're on the subject of horse fingers and mythology, the Greek pseudo-centaur Chiron's name means hand. Greek mythology also gives us the mares of Diomedes. These horses could breathe fire and occasionally ate people, setting them apart from normal horses, which can't breathe fire. That's right, even regular real-life horses will sometimes develop a hunger for human flesh. Despite being easily spooked prey animals, they're still technically omnivores, and as such have been known to chow down on mice in the stables, birds in the paddock, and on rare occasions, humans, such as one unfortunate Russian officer in the Napoleonic campaign. It's like I always say, never trust an animal whose teeth are bigger than its brain. If we look at this x-ray of a horse's skull, it's quite obvious that the molars alone are significantly larger than the brain case, but if we look more closely, we can also see that this horse has canine teeth. Not all horses have them, but the species as a whole retains the feature as a semi-vestigial reminder of their taste for flesh. And speaking of horse teeth, they erupt continuously from the gum line throughout a horse's lifetime, and by the time a horse reaches old age, if it reaches old age, the crowns are worn away to nothing, and many teeth are missing entirely. That's right, on its natural diet, a horse might just live long enough to starve to death. This makes me question the veracity of the phrase long in the tooth, but gauging the age and well-being of a horse by its dental health is where we get the expression, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. The saying is warning people not to be ungrateful of gifts, and not, as one of my relatives who shall go unnamed long assumed, related to the Trojan horse and the risk of being stabbed by a concealed Achaean. Returning to the subject of skulls, I collect them, mostly from roadkill or natural causes in the wild, but also occasionally as gifts, and one of these gifts was an elaborately carved portion of a horse skull. Mine is a piece of local art from Timor, but horse skulls also played a strange ritual role in the British Isles and the Scandinavian peninsula, where they were concealed in the structures of buildings. This was likely to ward off evil spirits as an apotropaic item, but some have theorized that it was to help with the acoustics. That latter theory isn't completely crazy either. According to classicist and Gothic architecture hater Giorgio Vasari, Leonardo da Vinci constructed a lyre which used a silver-plated horse skull as a resonator. In fact, equine skulls are still in use as musical instruments. The quijada is an idiophone percussion instrument popular in Latin American music, which acts as a combination of a rattle and a sort of skeletal tuning fork. And speaking of musical horse skulls, Mari Lwyd is a Welsh Christmas tradition wherein a bedsheet ghost with a horse skull for a head shows up on your doorstep and challenges you to a rap battle for your booze. I swear I'm not making any of that up. The figure goes wassailing door to door, singing carols, and then it and the homeowners exchange rhyming insults and excuses why I can't come in, before eventually acquiescing and sharing some Yuletide suds. So what's wrong with this image, besides, obviously, everything? Well, for starters, the horse head has round pupils, but real live horses have horizontal rectangular pupils, which is why their eyeballs rotate in their sockets. Let me back up. In this beastly world, you're either predator or prey, and unless you're that one Russian officer, horses are prey. Your position on the food chain also determines the position and structure of your eyes. Predators tend to have front-facing eyes, which grant better depth perception, and this is important when you're about to pounce on dinner, which will run away if you miss. Grazing prey species, meanwhile, tend to have sideways-facing eyes. This grants panoramic vision and allows them to scan a wider area for predators at the cost of depth perception, but they're not as bothered by that because grass doesn't run away. Believe me, I've checked. To aid in their panoramic vision, these species, like goats and horses, also have wide horizontal pupils. Predator species which are low to the ground, like cats, foxes, and snakes, have narrow vertical pupils, by the way. Here's the thing, though. Horizontal pupils only work if they're, horizontal, so as horses raise and lower their heads to graze, their eyeballs swivel in their sockets, in opposite directions no less, to remain level with the horizon. Whether you find that cool or creepy says a lot about you, but I'll leave that to a therapist to unpack and move on to our final cursed fact for today. Horses will suffer from sleep deprivation if they don't get 1 to 3 hours of REM sleep per day, and although they can doze standing up, they can only achieve REM sleep while lying down. Why is this information cursed? Because if a horse lies down for too long, it's risking potentially fatal health complications. You see, horses weigh so much that just taking a load off of their aching finger feet restricts blood flow around the body. This can prevent adequate blood from reaching vital organs, as well as cause pooling and clotting within blood vessels. Once a horse starts moving again, if one of these clots reaches the brain, it can cause a fatal cerebral embolism. So yeah, horses are like sleepy beached whales that have to take power naps or risk dying of a stroke. While the horse hole may keep your bones safe, nothing can keep the horse safe. And on that fascinating bit of word salad, I'm going to call this video to a close. If all goes according to plan, you can look forward to a new episode of Flag Shaming next month, but the existence of this video should adequately demonstrate that plans always come with an if. Thanks for watching, and have a fascinating day.